So down here we have, I don't even know, 60,000 shrimp in this room. The question is, can you use tap water to keep shrimp? Now, a lot of people ask this question, a lot of people do it, a lot of people say don't do it. So what is the answer? I'll start off by saying all these tanks down here are kept with tap water. So today I'm gonna walk you through like, what do you need to know? How do you know is your tap water good? How to make sure that your tap water doesn't go bad. There's a lot of variables. I wanna address as many of them as I can in this video, and that's what we're gonna be diving into today. What is going on, Shrimp Keepers? This is Rob with flipaquatics.com, and today we are talking about tap water for Neocaridina shrimp, cherry shrimp, orange sun-kissed shrimp, all the different blue dreams, you know, you name it, we're gonna be talking about it. And so it's super intimidating to be like, hey, you have to test your water. So like, you know, they sell these, you know, master test kits. There's ammonia, there's NO2, there's NO3. There's all these things that you need to test for, and it's super overwhelming. So I wanna simplify this today. So can you use your tap water at home to keep Neocaridina shrimp? Now, the answer isn't yes or no, it depends. And so what does it depend on? So there's two tests that I'm gonna tell you that you have to do, GH and KH. GH, we'll start with that one. GH stands for general hardness. Now this is like basically how hard your water is. Shrimp, Neocaridina shrimp, like hard water. So when you test this, it's really easy to test. I'm gonna simplify it as much as humanly possible. What you're gonna do is you're gonna get a vial of water. These come with vials. You're gonna fill it up to 5 milliliters, and then you're gonna do a drop of the solution. Once your water changes from one color to another color, that drop determines the degree of hardness that you have. So if it takes 10 drops to change my GH solution to the next color, then I know that my GH is 10. For Neocaridina shrimp, we try to keep all of our shrimp at a GH of about 8 to 10. 10 is like what we aim for. Now KH, we do 50% of that. You do this test the exact same way. X amount of drops means that's your degree of hardness. KH is carbonate hardness. That's basically like the stability of your pH. The more KH you have, usually the higher your pH is gonna be, the harder it is to get that to fluctuate. So GH, we want about 10, KH, we want about 5. Now, why I say you need to test your tap water first, is because if you have a GH of 1 and then a KH of 0, that's gonna be, you know, that's gonna be hard to just use your tap water for shrimp. You're gonna have to do something extra to that. You're gonna have to remineralize, you're gonna have to put more mineral in there. Or if you have a KH of 20 and a GH of 5, now that gets a little bit more difficult because nothing really does good in a KH of 20. So understanding what your tap water is the number one most important thing to determine if you can use it. So again, for Neocaridina, which we're talking about today, we want a GH of 10 and a KH of 5. If you're close to that, you might be able to make it work. If you're far off of that, I'm gonna show you in this video how you can fix your water to make it safe to use. And we're gonna go over all the different warning signs of like, hey, your tap water might have this, your tap water might have that. How do you treat for this? And so let's get into the next topic, which is actually what are the warning signs that you need to be watching for when using tap water. The number one biggest risk of using tap water is chlorine. Almost all city tap water has chlorine in it, but some of them have what's called chloramine. Chloramine is chlorine binded with ammonia. So here, what we have is 2 carbon towers. Now, the gray carbon tower has what's called coconut carbon in it. Now, coconut carbon will remove chlorine from your tap water, so you can throw one of these bad boys on your house, and now you're removing chlorine. But it does not remove ammonia. Now, if you guys don't know this, ammonia is the first step of the nitrogen cycle. It's very lethal to shrimp, fish, snails, plants. Like, it's just not good. You don't want it in your water. So if you're stripping the chlorine out of your water and leaving ammonia, that's just gonna cause you nothing but issues. So in the black container, we have our second type of carbon. Now this is catalytic carbon. Catalytic carbon will remove chlorine and ammonia. The reason that we always use coconut carbon first is catalytic carbon is super expensive. You want it to last as long as humanly possible. So we always try to filter the water before it gets to the second part. And that's a way that you can set this up on your home system to make sure that you're not getting chlorine and chloramine in your home tank. But there's also another solution, which I may or may not have it sitting around here. There is a product called a dechlorinator. Now, a dechlorinator is something that you add to your tap water to neutralize the chlorine, the ammonia. The most popular one that everyone talks about is Chem Prime. I don't personally use it. I use a product called ACCR by Aquatics. I love it. It's a great product. It comes in a powder. It lasts for forever. The other one is Brightwell Aquatics. We use their shrimp prep from time to time. Another great product, a company that we work for. So if you don't want to upgrade your whole home system to something like this, you can literally do 5 gallons, 5-gallon buckets, dose that tap water with a dechlorinator, and that would neutralize the biggest cause of people failing with using tap water, which is chlorine and chloramine. You guys, if you want to be a part of our Flipaquatics family, we want you to hit that subscribe button. So definitely click that down below. It's free, and if you don't hit it, Broccoli said that she's gonna cry, right? Right, Brock?
I always cry.
She does always cry. She is a crier. So don't make Broccoli cry. Hit that subscribe button down below. Become a part of our Flipaquatics community. So before we move on to actually making sure your water is the right mineral content, things like that, I do want to point out another risk to using tap water. So tap water from the city, it's just inconsistent, right? There's always a risk of the city having a bacterial bloom, that they put different types of chemicals in the water that aren't necessarily bad for you and me, but they might be completely lethal to your shrimp at home, or your fish, or your plants, or your snails. And so there's always that risk that they're going to be adding something. To give you an example, we use tap water in this room. We have a crazy filtration system that we've paid a decent amount of money for. We monitor it all the time. And our tap water right now comes in at 8.9 pH. Now, that's ridiculous. And what happened is our city is currently going through replacing lines. They need to recalcify the inside of the line. So they're putting tons of calcium in the water. Next thing you know, our tap water is not good for Neocaridina shrimp. It's not good for fish. It's not good for plants. It's not good for anything. So now we have to invest even more money in a system to lower the pH. And so it's just, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with using tap water. So while it's always possible, it may not be the best solution for you. Although, once you get it dialed in, you have the right filtration, you have the right setup, you know what you're doing, it can be a cost-effective way. Just know that there's always a risk that the city's gonna do something, or your township's gonna do something that they don't communicate to you, and it could cause you a lot of issues down the line. So I always think it's important to bring that up because it's an issue that we struggle with constantly, and I don't want you to go into this not knowing that. So we've talked a lot about filtration, and we really take it seriously here. This is our RODI unit. So RODI stands for reverse osmosis deionization. So this is a way to filter all the impurities out of your water. I'm not saying set up one of these at home because they can be a little intense. They can be pretty expensive, but there's a reason I bring this up. So we make RO water here. So let's say you at home, you measured your tap water, and we're aiming for 10 GH, 5 kH for Neocaridina shrimp. Let's say that you have 20 GH. Well, 20 is too high. You can't really do anything with that. So instead of being like, oh my gosh, I can't keep shrimp, what you can do is you can take something like RODI water or distilled water. You can go to the store and get gallon jugs of distilled water. They're like $1 a piece. And then you can cut your water. And what I mean by that is, if you have a gallon of water that is your tap water that has a 20 GH and you want 10, you can take a gallon of distilled water, mix the two together, and now you have water that is 10 GH, which is perfect. Now, I always focus on the highest measurement. So if GH is 20, that's the one I'm focused on bringing down. If KH is 20, that's what I'm focusing on bringing down. So the other number we'll worry about later, and that's what we're gonna talk about in the next section. So let's say that I have a GH of 20 and a KH of 0. That's the easiest solution. So I'm gonna cut my water down by mixing 50% distilled water, 50% tap water. Now I have my 10 GH, which is perfect. And that is how you get the building blocks of success. Now, the next section, we're gonna talk about how do we bring that KH reading back up to 5. And that's also pretty easy and something that we can do very simple. We made a very shrimpable solution for you, and we'll talk about that. But same thing if you have cage. If you have a cage of 20 and you want to bring it down to 5, now you need 3 gallons of distilled water, 1 gallon of tap water. So it's going to be a little bit more expensive because you're having to do 3 gallons of water that you bought versus 1 gallon of tap water, but still saving you money on the back end because, you know, you're not having to start from zero and invest in a big system like this. So let's go talk about remineralizing your tap. So as I said, there is a shrimpable solution for you guys. So whichever parameter that you are low on. So you're gonna fix one parameter, whether it's GH and KH, get it to where you want to. And then the other parameter, you're gonna use a product like this. This is what we use. It is our line. So like, I gotta be fully transparent. Like this is something we developed, but we developed this because there was a need that we needed it. And so we figured that you guys need it as well. It's Shrimply KH and Shrimply GH. Now, whichever one you have to increase, we made it super simple. It's 1 pump per 10 gallons, increases it by 1 degree. So if I need, in a 10-gallon tank, if I need 2 KH, I'm gonna do 2 pumps. If I need 3 GH, I'm gonna do 3 pumps. And that is the easiest way that we found to remineralize. So let's say that you have your parameters perfect, you got your GH set to 10 and your KH is 2. Well, now you know that you need to add 3 KH to your water, and whatever you're mixing, if it's a 5-gallon bucket, then you know this is set up for 10 gallons, so you cut it in half, and that's how you know how much you need to dose. And that just simplifies it. So people always think like remineralizing is like so complicated. I don't want to do that. It can be complicated if you're using powder and you have to factor in TDS and you're measuring this and you're measuring that. We've tried to shrimplify it as much as humanly possible, and that's what we did by coming out with this product. And so the alternative to tap water would be RO water. So like if you just want to do all distilled water because you're just like, my tap water is just completely bad, I don't want to risk it, it's got, it corrodes the lines, it potentially has copper in it, it has high mineral content in it, then you could start with distilled water, which is a 0 everything. And then you could do, 10 gallons of distilled water, and you could do 10 pumps of the GH, 5 pumps of the KH, and then you know that that is the perfect water parameters for shrimp. Now, another parameter that we didn't even talk about today is TDS. So for Neocaridina shrimp, people are always like, hey, 200 TDS. Yeah, that's really not true. Yeah, for most parts, if you're remineralizing, 200 TDS is gonna be good. But TDS is total dissolved solids. We've talked about this a lot on Shrimp Saturday. You can go back and watch tons of videos on it. We have a whole video, TDS 101. We'll link that down below. But TDS is one of those things that is very confusing. So like, let's say your GH and your KH is good, and then you test your TDS and it's like 500. Well, there's a lot of dissolved solids in your water that you don't know what they are. And so I would be very scared to use that water not knowing what makes that TDS so high. So at a 10 GH and a 5 KH, your water parameters should be anywhere from like 150 to 300. As long as it's in that range, I would say that's normal. If it's outside of that range, I would say there's extra stuff in your water that probably shouldn't be there, and I would be worried of using it. So again, today we talked about a lot of stuff. One, is tap water good for your shrimp? It can be. The biggest thing is testing your tap water. The next big thing is filtering your tap water, treating your tap water for chlorine, chloramine, ammonia. And then the next thing is like, if your water is not within range, how do you get it to within the proper range? And that's where a product like Shrimple GH and Shrimple KH comes into play. So that would be my biggest piece of advice for you guys. Measure your water, test your water, treat your water, remineralize your water, and make it perfect for your shrimp. It takes all the guesswork out of it. And if that's too complicated or if that's too much, definitely distilled water, RODI water is your best solution, and you're gonna have success 100% of the time, 99.99% of the time. So I appreciate you guys sticking along for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, hopefully you learned something. I hope you guys make it a great week. As always, God bless. We'll catch you guys on the flip side.